you know, we're a pretty meticulous bunch. And so we're cleaning before we open, we're cleaning after we open, we're cleaning after each visitor and collector comes to see us, the UPS guy, the mailman. We're not cleaning after the cleaning people come, but you get the idea. It's been considered. So we're taking this all very seriously. When we're in the gallery, even if it's quiet and I'm just here by myself, I do typically wear my mask all the time, and that's to keep me and my family safe and to keep the visitors who are coming in to see us. But oh, I see lots of people joining in. Thank you so much for coming in. It's a joy to be here with you tonight. This is going to be really a treat. So as you've heard, perhaps Natasha is in Mallorca, Spain right now. That's where she primarily makes her home. And although Spaniards are known for being night owls, we could not get her to stay up till 2 a.m., which is entirely expected. And so we had a chat earlier today. So we'll be playing the chat that we had, and the light was just beautiful in her studio. So we're just so pleased as people are continuing to come in. Oh, wonderful. Art lovers. Terrific. Well, do come out and see us. You see a little bit about what we're doing differently here in the gallery. The other thing I'll mention, Back Bay is beautiful. You know, usually it's teeming with lots of college students and people that are back to school. The streets are quiet. You'll probably get a parking spot relatively easy, and it's exquisite. To walk down the Commonwealth Avenue here and have a stroll through the park and to come see us is a treat. And we'd love to see you and have you come in to see us for as we're celebrating our 20th anniversary. So for those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm seeing many familiar faces here. My name is Christine Feeks-Hammond. I'm one of the directors here at Galerie d'Orsay with the talented Martha Folsom, who so many of you know, I'm sure. But we are celebrating our 20th anniversary. This is one of many, many celebrations that has been canceled. We had a very big bash planned. But alas, we're going to think positively about this and hope that this time next year we will be celebrating our 21st, which we think, I don't know where I was on my 20th birthday, but I do indeed remember where I was on my 21st. So let's hope it's going to be soon, and the bubbly will be flowing and the inspiration will be teeming, and it'll be a great night when we can be back again together. But we're thrilled that you can join us for this Women in Art show. This is the third time we've had this show, and it's important and meaningful. We are a women-founded and women-operated company. We go as far back in terms of this show to the French Impressionist Berthe Morisot, the American Impressionist Mary Cassatt, Helen Frankenthaler, and then visionaries continuing that tradition like Kathy Beist, Laurie Kozen-Geller, Tola, Elizabeth DaCosta Hearn, Sky Hoyt, and the amazing Natasha Zupan, who's with us here tonight in just a short bit. So I think we have nearly everybody. I imagine we have a few more people that are going to join us. But as people are continuing to come in, can I give a little Zoom, I guess, tutorial or sort of something like that? Kindly, as you entered the chat, you were muted. If you'd be so kind to keep it that way, that would be fantastic. You can choose to turn your video on or off, it's up to you. But if you could keep keep yourself muted, that would be very helpful. We are recording tonight so that people who might not be able to join us can see it in the future. But we're just so pleased to have Natasha and to share this fun interview with you. My name, again, is Christine Feeks-Hammond. I'm one of the directors here at Galerie d'Orsay, along with Martha Folsom, Ben Fleich, who's been very helpful in putting this all together, Jenna Gazoy, Devin Engel. I'm going to introduce Natasha formally when we see her in just a minute, but I did want to mention that you'll see she speaks, let me see if I get this right, she speaks English, of course, Spanish, Italian, French, and Catalan, which is the language that Pablo Picasso and Salvador Dali spoke. She has this cultural fluency that informs her work in a very unique way. Her father is a painter, who many of you know, her mother is a painter and a very gifted writer, but they would travel quite significantly throughout the year. And so when she goes to Venice, which is different than perhaps when I would go to Venice, she has family friends there and childhood friends. And it's very much her home. When she goes to Paris, and she is an extremely well-traveled person. We're gonna hear about things from Morocco and South America, but you'll see how she has this cultural fluency that informs her painting in such unique ways. So without further ado, I do hope we have everyone. On behalf of myself, Christine Hammond, Martha Folsom, Ben, Devin, Jenna, we're so pleased you can be with us. We are gonna meet up at the end for a toast for the artists, and we're just so happy you can be with us. So without further ado, here we have Natasha.
Natasha, are you there? I'm here. Hi. I'm so glad this is working out. You're there. We're here. We have countless enthusiastic collectors. We're absolutely thrilled with the RSVP list that's able to join us here tonight. And we're so thrilled to be able to join you there in your studio. How are you?
Great. I'm so excited to see you.
Wonderful. Well, we know how special it is. We know typically very few people get to come in and have the tour that we're going to have very shortly with you. So we're so pleased. It's a very private, sort of intimate space for you. And so we're so pleased that we're going to be able to have a peek.
Yes. So exciting. It adds another dimension, I think, to the exhibition, to see the work hanging on your walls in the gallery and then the actual place where it's made. So it's a great contrast, I think.
I think so too. I think so too. This is the upside of the times that we're in, is that we get to visit you in special places like this. So
Exactly.
I think everybody has had some sort of travel plans interrupted throughout these unusual and unfamiliar times. And when I'm longing for travel, I bet a number of you are at home. Natasha, you've had a very unique experience, which we'll talk about during your quarantine time, travel experience. But when I think about some of the most well-traveled people that I know, Natasha, you come to mind.
I wonder why.
And so one of those, I thought it would be fun to sort of have the theme of travel throughout this talk, and sort of the cultural fluidity that you have, and how you incorporate them into your paintings, whether it's through fabrics from Africa or Asia, the United States, really all over, in your unique techniques. But before I sort of get into that, I do want to give you the proper introduction. If you were here, you'd probably like wave me away because I know you're so humble, but can I give you sort of the formal introduction?
Yes, yes.
Fabulous. Many of you have met Natasha, many of you at home have met Natasha in person. I've known her for about 17 years. That's around the time that you started being represented by Galerie here in Boston. But you grew up, have a very interesting upbringing that we'll talk about. But one thing that is important that I share with everyone that looks at your work is, girl, you know how to paint. And what I mean by that is you've been very sort of strictly classically trained. So Natasha can do the chiaroscuro and the diminishing perspective like few others. And with that mastery of that vocabulary, you've shifted into this enormously expressive abstraction. And these colors and the textures that you created for us are just gorgeous. Based on that technique, you went on to the prestigious Yale University in Connecticut and studied there in their art department, which is a very extensive program to get into, submitting portfolios and such. You've since been honored by numerous institutions, the Columbus Museum of Art in Georgia, among many others. There's quite a few visionaries and artists and prestigious collectors that have your work. Names like Michael Douglas don't really need much of an introduction. The actress Catherine Zeta-Jones, Mariska Hargitay, the Swarovski family who makes those beautiful crystals, have been supporters of your work for many years. So as we look at your paintings tonight, I always want people to know the sort of classical background that you had that started with your father and your mother in your house as a young child. But again, we're so pleased to have to be able to see you tonight. So back to that theme of travel, Natasha, can you tell us how many languages you speak?
5. I'm fluent in 5, and then I can, depending on if I have a glass of wine, I might start speaking another 2 or 3 badly, but I can get by. I kind of, as a child, because we moved around so much, I was curious to identify where people were from the language. So I'm phonetically, I guess, developed, and I can easily mimic a language if I don't speak it, but 5 I'm fluent in.
That is amazing. And I know this relates directly to your work in all of the different materials that you use. As you begin to share with us the studio tour there, could you talk about some of the materials that you've collected from different ends of the globe?
Yes, I mean, I grew up traveling a lot because of my father being a landscape artist. We would move around quite a lot, even in the middle of the year at Christmas time, because the light would get very dark and gray here. So we were itinerant because he was looking for the perfect light for his landscapes. And I would collect bits and pieces, and I was always fascinated with fabrics, for instance. And I just started a collection very early on. And for me, fabric is sort of very symbolic, and I incorporated it in almost every single piece of mine because it's a tradition. It's a historic tradition that women were allowed to always embroidery and make tapestry and rugs, and it was sort of where women were allowed to, be creative. A couple, 100 years ago, thousands of years ago, women were not allowed to be painters, so they could use and express themselves in the fabrics. And so that's why I always have the fabric in every painting, as I said, and to refer to that tradition.
And it's so interesting because I've seen fabrics of sweaters that people that are close to you that you've incorporated, stretched onto canvas, painted on top of. I think there was a shirt that your mother had made at one point that you incorporated. Almost looks like a tuxedo shirt. Maybe we'll see it later on today. And there was one that you were telling me about recently from Morocco. I wonder if you have that one handy.
Yes, I do. Let me figure out how to switch the camera here. So now we're going to go into my studio, and here it is. There. So this beautiful fabric, I'll get closer, is from a camel saddle, and it's from Afghanistan, I believe. And then this is a sari, part of an old Indian sari, all hand dyed and stitched. And this is what really excites me, are these colors and the labor, the hours of labor put into it. So I take this as a base, and from here I begin the painting.
Amazing, Natasha. The texture of that piece of fabric is just extraordinary.
Yes. And imagine how many rides and adventures happened when the camel had this on his back.
Oh my gosh, so storied, right? That's incredible.
Yes.
Well,
the fabrics and these pieces of clothing and these pieces of curtains and all these things I started incorporating, they all have lived a life before, so they have a story to tell. I guess I mentioned a while ago when you and I were talking that when I was a child, we would go to so many museums. I spent my childhood in museums and in Italian churches and basilicas and cathedrals, and I was always fascinated with the relics, a little piece of fabric and a little piece of this, and I didn't quite understand, and it was the piece that belonged to so-and-so's robe. So I expanded my fascination with the fabric, and I was like, I wonder who wore this dress, and I wonder which ballroom these curtains were hanging in, and what table this tablecloth was on. So it all, for me, had an embedded story in it, and in the stitching, and it was in time. It was about time and sort of bringing it back to life.
Oh, I love that. I love thinking about the stories that are behind each one of them. It's just exquisite. We are looking at shifting a little bit from Boston. Isn't this fun that we can shift from Mallorca, Spain to Boston this quickly? But if we shift over and take a closer look at this gorgeous set that we have here, I wonder if you could share with us some details about some of the ones that we have here. This is one that comes to mind, and I just think the composition of this is so brilliant in its simplicity and its subtlety. And can you share us the background on this one?
Yes. So that was my mother's shirt. It was a beautiful Phoenician sort of violet blue color, and of course it changed a little bit with the the pigments and the glues and the binders that I've used. But she used to wear that on very special occasions. And I remember when I was a little girl, I was fascinated with when she got all dressed up. She's so beautiful, and that shirt. I guess she gave it to me a while ago. Every now and then, we all clean out our closets, and I wanted to keep it intact. I mean, forever. So it ended up there in the painting. It was sort of like the painting is. I just thought the ideas of the buttons that what if you could unbutton it and see what's behind the mystery. And I just thought it was such a beautiful beginning, story.
And I think it's so noteworthy that it's framed in gold as well. Just from an aesthetic standpoint, it is so beautiful, but I love the idea of sort of creating this halo around this special memory.
Yeah, no, and so, like I say, when I work on these little, what do we call them, pieces, individual pieces, they have to stand alone, but they also go very well in groups. And so that was how they're conceived, is they can be individual, or they can go in pairs, or 4 or 8, or like this, in sets, because I think they start to have a dialogue amongst each other. It's like when I work on them, I work on about 20 or 30 at the same time, and they all start to take on pieces of each other, so they can go hang together or separately, as I said.
Fantastic. And to give us a little bit more of an idea of some of the fabrics here, could you speak about these as well?
Which
colors in these, Natasha? Just gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, that's the coral silk. Yeah, so the coral silk, that was, like I say, I collected fabrics for so many years. That's my passion, is to go to flea markets and antique markets and just hunt for these precious pieces of fabric or reminiscences. And then I find the occasion to, I'm exploring here the corals and the reds, and it's all those warm earth color tones that I'm fascinated with in this particular piece. And then the one that you have right below is a piece of silk that was given to me by Zhang Toy, a very dear friend of mine, a designer. And this was woven on the looms in Lyon, where Marie Antoinette had all her fabrics made for her clothes and her curtains and rooms. And so it's it's from the 18th century, the looms. And it's just the story, the weight that is embedded in it already, for me, I just find incredibly interesting, and it speaks for itself.
That's amazing. And I see there's a number of different pieces with unique techniques. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you could talk about either one of these two, as I feel like it's, if there's ones in your studio that make more sense for you to speak about, but these are two that come to mind that really exhibit that unique texture and layering that you do with your paintings.
Yes, I mean, the blue one is layers and layers of oil paint. So obviously, I'm fascinated with contrast and the dialogue between different languages. So back to your original question, how many languages you speak? I speak 5. And artistically, I think there are many ways of representing art. Every artist has their own sort of signature or markings, and it's like our personal handwriting. My style, I guess what you could say is what I've developed over all these years in my career, is a vocabulary. I'm using this terminology of different techniques. So here we have a very thick impasto of layers and layers of oil, and it's just to create this texture and richness and tactile memory. Again, we go back to the tactile, and so if you look at this, you want to touch it, and then it's like all the feelings or emotions you might feel when you're looking at something, that you want to understand what it feels like, because I think it's very sensory what I do. I've always been very interested in that element of representation, representing something that you would like to touch.
Fantastic. I wonder if maybe you could show us some other examples of the texture in your studio. Can we see?
No, I'll show you. Yes, absolutely. So here's a set that I'm working on now. And as you can see, this
Natasha, that's exquisite.
So this one, as you can see, I'm on a sort of a Middle Eastern, Moroccan, Indian sort of adventure here. And there's like, here we go, little pieces of the camel saddle that remained. And then I have some beautiful, what's this called? I'm going to think of it in a second. And then these are Afghanistani, for the animals that you put around the headdresses and everything. But I just, and pieces of keelim, which again, we go back to the weaving, pieces of embroidered silk. It's just a real mixture of different things. And I'm incorporating silk flowers, as you see, because when I go to Morocco, I mean, last year I was lucky enough to go twice in a year. And the use of flowers everywhere, I just find it's so beautiful, the way that they appeal to your five senses. Everywhere you look is just, the visuals are overwhelming to me. And so I've started with these rose petals and different things, and the silks here. This is a very, this is, I think, from the 19th century, but I completely paint into it and start, changing the colors completely to go for my thing. But I just love the contrast and the way that the colors interact with each other. So like I was explaining before, here we have a set that we can hang together, or we can separate them. And then this was the latest thing that I was telling you about earlier, is I've created these boxes, which you're going to receive in the gallery soon. And they're quite sculptural, because see how rich they are, and that they're very deep and layered. So it can stand like this, or it can be incorporated into the set. So then you have sort of an angle like this, and it just adds a whole new dimension, which I find fun and different. And
they are. It's fantastic. And can I add, from our historical point of view, how difficult it is to get all those cues to play so well together? This is a strength of yours, Natasha, which I know, your understanding of color, as well as texture, but your understanding of color is just amazing. To get the browns and the pinks and those hues that work together in such complete harmony.
It's called, amazing. Yeah, I was very privileged, because at Yale, I mean, in the Yale Art School, it was quite challenging to first get accepted, as we mentioned. But I did a course that really impacted my whole career, which was called color theory. And of course, the sort of, this whole school sort of went around Joseph Albers and color theory. And, imagine I come from Europe, I've been studying, chiaroscuro and drawing sort of these statues, and then I'm immersed in color theory, and I don't quite know, what it's all about, but I take the course twice, and I learn about color, and color exists. And I think this is why I'm so obsessed with these little pieces, because if you show it by itself, it's one color, but if you put it next to another color, they automatically become new colors. And that's how the process of color works. And of course, we studied the pointillist and how this all evolved historically in the arts. And for me, it was always a fascination how we build on color, because the more colors that are around colors, the more they speak to each other.
And it is funny, from a gallery standpoint, when we're interacting with our collectors, some of the most fun times we've had is trying to either install these, up a staircase, or do we need 5 or do we need 7, or do we want 4 across, and trying to play around. The interactive quality of this is something that's so meaningful to our collectors. And even, I've had collectors say, like, oh, after a glass of wine, sometimes I'll go and I'll rearrange the tiles and the canvases that you've created. And I think it just brings such creativity and inspiration to collectors in such a unique way. It's something you may not think about all that much, but we have a ball. And I think it's an important quality of your work, specifically for the smaller ones.
I mean, I play with it all the time, because like you say, you can have 10 of the pieces, and then if you change their order, it's a completely different impact. And color works like that. So now I'm going to take you to my color wall where I have all my other ones that I'm working on. As we, this is my wall, and so here you can see I evolve from the sort of yellows to greens to blue greens to turquoise, and it becomes a constant dialogue about color. And then I can try to get them all in, and I don't know, it's kind of hard because I've got my big window behind me. But you see what I'm talking about. So this is where I put the ones that I'm working on that are drying, and I start to build and build and build the different layers, and I just have so much fun with it. So these are the smaller ones, and then of course we have the larger ones that are here. And,
these are so exciting.
Yeah. So
Natasha, can you zoom in? Just go, actually, because you're doing such a great job. At some point, I'd love to see the Menton de Manilla paintings. It's just another example of the Spanish roots that you have. Yes.
This one. Yes. So this is all, is that too close? No. So
No,
this is
great.
all knotted and hand embroidered. So this is a piece from an old Menton de Manila that I removed, but I loved the effect it has, because this is covered in 24 karat gold, but it almost looks like a snake skin, like a skin or a tire print. I mean, you don't really know what it is unless you really start to examine it. And it's sort of like all those knots and all that labor I just think has to be appreciated, and I incorporate it into my, into what I do, because for me, I get very excited about things like this. So,
And to refresh the memory of those of us at home, the Menton de Manilla, there's the common Spanish shawls that we see. And how would you describe them, Natasha? I wish I had a picture of one there.
It's like a square that has flowers embroidered on it, and then it has fringe. And it actually was, they were made in the Philippines. That's why it's like Menton de Manila is like a throw from Manila. And that was when they were, they conquered Manila for a while. It was part of their colonies. And so they would bring back these shawls and fans, and it was sort of the Asian influence that came into Europe in the 19th century, or whenever, different dates. But the interchange of cultures and ideas. But the Menton de Manila is very sort of, you see it a lot in Sevilla, in the south of Spain. They still have it in their flamenco and in their dancing. That's probably where you would most see it now. So I collect those as well. I have a few dealers, and they always call me when they have one, and they know I like the old ones from last century because there's so much embroidery and beautiful pieces. So I, sometimes it breaks my heart to cut them up, so I don't. I keep them for myself.
Well, we love it when you incorporate them into these paintings. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. Natasha, I feel like I interrupted a really beautiful scan that you were doing on the wall there with some of those new paintings. I'd love to sort of zoom in and see some of those other ones. Like that lime green one is just gorgeous. Look at that.
Yeah, so this is layers and layers of pigments, and then these are brush strokes, and then they've dried, and then I paint like the yellow on top of the green, but it creates this third color. It's the juxtaposition of the two colors together that have created this third color, which, it's all done by building them up, because the way I work is dry on dry. And that's why people say, how can you work on, 30 pieces at the same time? And I said, well, because while some are drying, I work on the ones that are dry. So I rotate them, because this is how I get the effects that interest me. And for instance, here you can see all the different layers. I mean, of course, this one was obviously influenced by staring at sunsets, which in Mallorca we have the most incredible ones. And this is all wet, but those colors that I just stare at for hours, because I was very influenced, and I always loved Whistler's work. And my mother actually pointed out that we're related to him. So he was an ancestor on my mother's side. And Whistler, used to stare at the landscape, and then he would go back, he would memorize the colors, and he never painted anything on site. He did it all in his studio. So I work like that too. So I would say my work is very indebted to the nature that surrounds me. And
oh, look at this. This is amazing to see this.
Yeah. So this is, so anyway, I was just sitting down because it's hard to talk and walk around. So I was saying, so from a child, I've always loved nature and walking in nature. And it was one thing I used to do a lot with my mother, and we had a group and we'd go in the mountains. But I was always so fascinated by the colors of you know, just what I have here on this island. And, you know, I guess my father moved here because of the light and the colors. So from a very early age, I was very privileged to have this just outside my door. And I guess developing as an artist and, you know, my own expression and my own style, you know, when you have a very successful father who you know, admire and grow up with, but you have to, you know, develop something completely different. You can't, you know, I could never even conceive of being a landscape artist because that's what he does. But nevertheless, I'm so influenced by the nature and by everything that surrounds me. So this is how I've developed my own style, is by sort of taking little tiny details, because I love to stare at something very, very close up and just take that. There's sort of like little blow-ups of nature.
It's amazing. We should mention who your father is, the amazing Bruno Zupan, who's been a Galerie d'Orsay artist since the very beginning over the last 20 years. We've just recently added a piece of his to the Boston Public Library, and he's in many museums. Tell us about growing up as being his daughter.
Well, where do I begin? the thing is we're so similar. It's kind of it's hard to even begin to talk about it. But of course, I'm incredibly privileged and very, very lucky. And I had an early start. Let's just say from age 5, 6, I remember him standing at the easel painting, and those long summer evening sunsets when he's still finishing the painting and sitting near his easel and watching the final touches and watching it all come to life. It was sort of magic. But for me, growing up as an artist's daughter was normal. It's what I knew. For me, it was the most normal thing in the world. I guess that's how all childhoods are. You kind of. So of course, when I went off to university, of course I wanted to study art because it was in my blood. It was in my system. It's what I knew. And then, everything followed.
I guess I speak for all of us. Some of our favorite shows have been the ones with you and your father. And people, of course, ask us about the relationship between the two amazing Zupans here at Galerie d'Orsay. And the thing is, your palette is so similar. Your styles, of course, couldn't be more different, but your palette is so similar, and I'm assuming that's the influence of Mallorca.
Yeah, I think it comes from what we just see around us. It's just the colors here are, people don't believe that they're real. I post some pictures here and there, and they're like, "Oh, but that's filter." I'm like, "No, this is really what there is." I mean, the colors here are overwhelming. It's that line that Gertrude Stein says to Robert Graves when she comes to visit, and he says, "Well, what do you think of our little paradise?" And she says, "Well, it's paradise if you can stand it." Now, it really is paradise here, but it is an island. It's it's got everything, but it's still an island in the middle of the Mediterranean, and it has so much beauty that it's overwhelming sometimes. But it's very it's embedded in everything I do, everything we do. So I think, yes, for my father and I you have his paintings from Mallorca, from Venice, from all the different places, and you can see the colors change as he changes countries, but the base, the core, I would say we have very similar colors. Because
yes, I see it too. Now, Natasha, I think from where you are sitting, I think if you flip screen, you're going to see a new painting that you did that resonated with me so strongly. The one that you did with in response to George Floyd and civil rights movements that are happening around the world. Could you share with us that painting, a little bit of that one?
Yeah. So this is all on a text, legal text from law school about civil rights. So if you get close to it, you can see all the underlining and all their notes and different, see the blue and the all, I guess they were studying for an exam. And so I used all the text, and then I was explaining that this is the way it looks front on, but if you look at it from an angle, it pales. And then if I go, it's almost 3D. It's like those church paintings, I was trying to remember the name. And then here it's very red. So now I'm going to go back. And here
Oh
it
my
is.
goodness.
You can
Natasha,
see it.
the use of the pages from the book is just beautiful. The texture it's created, it's such a great example of your style, my goodness.
Yeah, so that is another, and we go back to the collection of fabrics and objects that I collected while I was, traveling and growing up. And what we didn't mention earlier is collage. The technique of collage is sort of the root of my style. It's sort of the base. Like everything is made from building up layers and layers. And collage has always been my my preferred method of working. And even with the paint, and you see all these layers, it's almost, instead of gluing paper or gluing, fabric or whatever, I can put paint on top of paint. It's the way that I make my pieces is very collage. And here I'm just going to show you, since I'm standing in front of it, a blue one.
Stunning.
So these are all novels and stories, but each piece is painted individually. And again, we go back to that, how all the different colors, when you bring them together into one, they create a very special and unique combination of colors.
Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
And then
I want to hear about your quarantine time a little bit, because you had an unusual travel during your quarantine. Maybe you could scan us. Oh, please don't let me interrupt you. That's beautiful.
No, I was just going to show you. I have this one in cobalt. I really, really like working in these large, this is sort of the ocean waves. I think you had one of these one year in a box, remember?
Yes, it's hanging with a collector not far from here in Massachusetts. Just absolutely beautiful.
Okay, so now back to the collages. So here I'm going to just take you briefly to, here I've got them in boxes. So my confinement was in, I don't know if you can see this, the light, was in Panama on an island. I was visiting a friend of mine, and I went for a week, and I ended up spending 3 months there. And I produced 88 collages, so one for every day that I was there. And I have them in my folios here. So I have a very big, I'm not going to show you all of them because there's so many, but I became fascinated with the insects and the bugs and all the different, the nature there is just so overwhelming and powerful. And
So this is not a manicured setting that you were in, was it?
No, well, this is the island here. This is photographs. So the photographs that I'm using here in my collage, because of course I went there to rest. I didn't really go there to work. And because I didn't have any materials, my friend, the host, his name is Johnny Pagazzi, he's an incredibly talented artist, photographer, and we would go on these, safaris for images. We take our cameras and we go into the deep jungle, and we'd take many, many photographs, and then he would print some of them for me and give them to me. And on those, I started building my collages.
Amazing. And Johnny Pagazzi is not only a very talented photographer, but a collector as well, and of course has your work. But that's quite a collaboration that you had during that time. My goodness.
Yeah, I was very lucky. He's a visionary. He has the largest collection of contemporary African art in the world, and he's donated to all the major museums. But he really, I've learned so much from him, and I feel a little bit guilty because he asked me to bring him some art materials because he was on the island, and I said, okay. So I brought lots of watercolors and paper and things that I was going to give him as a gift. And I guess when we realized we weren't going to be going anywhere for a while, I sort of had to reclaim them and say, do you think I can have it back? So that's what I was using, was the things that I had brought him. And
I love that. You got to take them back. You got to do what you got to do, right?
But yeah, so.
I'd love for you to speak about this larger one here that we have that's so extraordinary as well. As I feel like it's another example of your unique technique that you incorporate. This is Color Boundary 68. Can you tell us about how you made this one, Natasha?
Yes, so this one is on, I believe there are 10 or 15 layers of organza, silk organza. So if you could get to the side, you can see, if you show me the side of the canvas, it's really, really built. And in layering the silk and then the pigments and color, I would see how they would bleed into the silk. Because when you paint on fabric, it's very different than when you paint on straight canvas. And in another course that I studied at Yale, apart from color theory, the other course was techniques. And it was all about how through the centuries art was made and how it was preserved and everything. And another area that fascinated me is how icons were made. And icons, they would take wood and then they would put rabbit skin glue and fabric. They always put fabric first before they painted. And so this is based on that technique, which is instead of rabbit skin glue, I soak it in current modern equivalents, which is like latex-based liquids that are binders. And I layer and layer and layer, and then I incorporate the pigments because I mix my own colors a lot with other ones, but that's how I create this illusion of depth. I wanted to create a very, very, a sky, the colors of the sky right after the sun sets a little bit, which are all caught in those clouds. And I was using my, the organza sort of as the weight to sort of soak up all my pigments. And then, it's an allusion to a landscape here, obviously, but I tried to keep it in non-representational.
Natasha, I see our time is sort of getting tight here, but what else might you want to share with us from the studio? It's so exciting to be there with you.
Well, there's one piece that I'm about to ship off that I did not close the crate yet because I wanted to show it to you, but I also work on commissions and I do portraiture. So I just wanted to show you, they're in the box, they're going to their owners, but this is a portrait that I completed this summer. And it's my chiaroscuro that you can see. Is the camera okay? Because it's rather large.
Yes, that's great, Natasha.
I just wanted to show that it's on its way to Germany. And so I'm going to be, when I finish with you, I'm going to be dealing with the crate and my very good friend here.
Oh my gosh. Ah, that's amazing. Well, yeah, just the depiction of the figures there and the spark between them. And I actually really love the way her hair is depicted there too. It's just gorgeous.
So I do that, and that's my father always, thanks to him, he always said, well, you need a base. You need a base. Once you have the base, you can do whatever you want with it. And, you know, the classical training, and, you know, when I was 14, 15, you know, everybody was still going out, and I was in art school doing chiaroscuro, and I was kind of like, ugh, I wish I could be out, you know, having fun with my friends. But it's something that now I realize how lucky I am to have it, because I can also paint portraits or anything if I want to.
Amazing. You've got, like I said, you've got this amazing sort of cultural fluidity, but also this mastery of these techniques that just serves you so, so well as you create these gorgeous abstractions for us. Natasha, I think I need to let you go. It is so lovely being with you.
It went so fast. I can't believe it. It just time flies. But I'm so honored to be hanging in this beautiful show, and I'm in such good company. And I wish I could be there, but hopefully in April.
I hope so. Yes, you're here with Helen Frankenfeller and Mary Cassatt and Kathy Weiss, Lori Cousin-Geller, a number of our really outstanding women artists here at Galerie d'Orsay. It's our third year doing the Women in Art exhibition, and we're just elated that you were able to join with us, and we were able to come see you in Mallorca, Spain today. Natasha, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you for being the best team, the best gallery, and I wish you all the luck, and I wish everything goes incredibly well. And I love this talks. I'm going to be watching all the other talks. When is the next one?
Oh, Tuesday.
Okay,
Tuesday will be
fantastic.
the next one with Lori, and then the following Thursday is with Kathy Weiss, which would be great. Really great.
Okay, well, I'm sending
Natasha, be well, stay inspired.
you too, and lots of love.
Bye from all of us.
Bye, bye. Thank you so much. Bye.
Hey, I hope that was as much fun for you to watch at home as it was for us to make here. This is fantastic. Ooh, I love this paradise. Fantastic. I love seeing this. So I totally practice what I preach here at Galerie d'Orsay. So I have several of Natasha Zupan's paintings in my home. And when my friends and my family come visit me, they ask questions about these paintings. And it's not only a joy to sort of share Natasha's experience with art making and the meditation that goes into it, because you feel it as it hangs on the wall, or I actually have one sitting on an easel in my house. But it's a meaningful thing, and to be able to elevate the conversations with my friends and my family is an important thing. And I also want to share a story from a collector in New York, actually, who sent me a text, and we've had really an outpouring of support since mid-March throughout these unusual times. People that are writing and asking questions about paintings and bringing them home. We were, doing appointments during the quarantine throughout April and May, just private appointments here and there. But a collector said to me, I never knew how essential the art could be. And he has a collection of contemporary paintings of Marc Chagall and Henri Matisse. But in these unusual times, it's not air to breathe or food to eat. But I know that what Natasha is doing is essential to our humanity. And we are so thrilled to have placed so many paintings over the years of Natasha's with collectors here in Europe, really around the world. But she's really an outstanding artist to consider and collect. So she's disappointed because of the time difference and has said she'd be delighted to meet with collectors on a one-on-one basis over Zoom. So please get in touch with us if that's something that's of interest to you. And now Natasha's, of course, in Slumberland, but I'm delighted to try to share with you what I may know about Natasha and her techniques, and try to take any questions. So it's a little tricky for me to go through the chat, but let me see. What questions might we have here from our art-loving audience here? Well, if there's any questions, you can go ahead and unmute and ask them, or you can put them in the chat. I love seeing these. The George Floyd painting is amazing. Yes, it is. I love how she incorporated the civil rights text into that, and the color that she incorporated was just so on point to the times and the movement. And I think Natasha is just supremely talented, and it's such a joy to have her here. Are there any questions? I would love to try to answer them on her behalf. Oh, hold on, I see that I think there's one coming in, if that's right. Pardon me, the amazing Ben Fleith is assisting me here tonight. He's writing it out for me. Let's see here. Oh, that's a good question. All right, first, can I read a couple of the comments here? Best team and best gallery, thank you. Wonderful. You know, I'm not sure, Martha, if you're at home, or I know you are at home, Martha, if you can comment on that, I hope you'll chime in and do that. I'm not sure I know why her first paintings with fabric. I know at one point she was dipping dresses and fabrics, and it really started with a lot of clothing. But we may have to get back to you on that. And we've got one other, hold on. Yes, I'm so glad. So the question is, do people ever frame the 8 sets and the sets? So behind me, let me see if I can do this via Zoom. So on the wall, we have individual tiles, which is actually not unlike this one that I have here, which I think is so beautiful. And I actually picked this one up because it's quite heavy. I know that you can't really see that by Zoom, but the amount of oil paint that she has on this is just so built up and so beautiful. So this can hang sort of individually. I actually have one sitting in my house that's on an easel, like so at home. But we've created this new system with our framing. So you can see on the floor, we've worked with our framer. And it's actually a magnetic system that we can sort of move them around and play around with them and offer a more sort of structured framing for them, which I think is really interesting, as well as hanging them on the wall as we have over here. Oh, we've got another question coming in. Oh. Hold on, hang tight, hang tight. We've been pretty good with technology, I think, so far. Oh yeah, how much do they weigh? I don't know, gosh. I don't know, is this a pound? It's not very heavy, but some of them would be difficult to hold up because there's so much oil paint. But we're thrilled to have you joining with us here tonight. Soon enough, I hope we will all be together. Please contact us with your favorites. We are so pleased with the outpouring of support we've had so far for this Women in Art show. But please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. If there's no other questions, I think maybe I'd let you go. All right, everyone, be well, inspired. Come see us at Galerie d'Orsay, Newbury Street. Here in Boston. Signing off from me, Christine Feeks-Hammond, one of the directors, along with Martha Folsom, Ben Fleith, Jenna Gazoy, and Devin Engel. We're so delighted to have you with us here tonight, and we're going to do this again in just a couple of days, so stay tuned. We've got ones coming up with Lori Kozen-Geller and Kathy Beist in the coming week, and then we've got other artists in the works as well. Perhaps one with Bruno Zupan and Natasha Zupan at some point. So everyone be well, stay inspired, and come see us, please. Take care. Bye, everybody.